And of course, the other big topic is the digital transformation. 4, 5, or even 6 years ago, if we would have asked me, how is your cooperation with Amazon, I would say, we never will work with Amazon together. Now Amazon has become our biggest customer. And if you would have asked me about the future of brick and mortar also some years ago, I would have probably drawn a much more positive picture as it is today. The development of losing great retailers that have done a fantastic job in the last 20 years all of a sudden disappear. One, because of probably not keeping up with the digital development. The other one is probably succession, and the last one is
From sales rep to CEO to mountain guide, with over 30 years of experience with some of the most iconic brands in the sports and outdoor world. This episode, I'm chatting with the CEO of the Schwan-STABILO Outdoor Group, Martin Riebel. With sales and product experience at brands including Adidas, Helly Hansen and Gore-Tex, and now leading Deuter, Ultravox and Meyer Sports, among others. Martin shares with us how the industry has changed and how he believes it'll continue to change through the current digital and AI revolution. He also shared the best piece of advice he's received, so make sure you stick around for that.
So, hi Martin. You've spent your career working with some of the most respected brands within sport and outdoor. So obviously Adidas, Helly Hansen, Gore, and for the last, how many years? 13 and a half years or so, you've been leading the group of brands at Schwan-STABILO, or the outdoor group of brands at Schwan-STABILO. I'm interested, before we kind of get into a little bit of the details, what was the original motivation to get into this industry?
That's an easy question.
I can't promise they'll all be that easy.
I used to be a pretty good skier when I was young. I wanted to become an athlete. And after the athlete time, a sports teacher or a coach, sports coach. But unfortunately, at the age of 17, I broke my knee. I couldn't continue my sports career, at least the way I wanted. So there was no option to continue that path. But it was clear to me that I wanted to stay in sports. And that's why after my university time in France and US and Germany, it was clear to me that there was only one industry that I would apply for a job, and that was the sport article goods industry.
Okay, interesting. And you mentioned there that you've studied in other countries, in France and the US, and since you joined the industry, you've had sales roles, but also product roles, and obviously now general management roles. Is there a point in your career that you would say has been particularly pivotal in terms of leading you to where you are today?
Well, it's like always. It's probably a little bit of plan and then coincidence. There were probably two moments in that stage. One was I did my, again, I said in France and the US, I did 2 internships at Adidas France and the US. And at that time, I got to know my mentor, which I still am good friend with today, a guy called Dave Ward. And he and we worked together during my internship in the US. And after that, university time and my first job at Blizzard, we stayed in touch. And then I was about taking over my parents' sports store in Kehl with my brother. I've been also then in Kehl for about 2 years, and basically 6 weeks before my father wanted to subscribe.
Yeah.
The business to me and my brother. This guy called me and said, do you want to work for Adidas in Herzogenaurach? And that put me in kind of a dilemma, because on the one side it was the family business, on the other side it was the big dream to work for this, great brand. And then I'm still thankful to my father today that, we had a conversation, and of course, he probably was disappointed in a way, but on the other side, he felt that he wouldn't stay in my way to do my own thing. And it let me go from a moral point of view also. And then started my career at that time at Adidas, which was a fantastic time. And the second point was, then after Adidas, I worked 4 years for Helly Hansen and then 8 years for Gore. And after the 8 years for Gore, I was 48. And at the point at Gore where I didn't see any great perspectives anymore. So I decided to say, okay, now it's the time to make a break. Basically took a half year off with my wife, and we traveled Asia and Australia and had a great time. And at that time, a friend and mine, we talked about, what could be my next role. And he was a climber, and he knew Bernd Kuhlmann, who was the CEO of Deuter at that time. And he called him, and the next day I was talking to Bernd Kuhlmann, and 2 weeks later to Sebastian Schwanhäuser. And probably those two moments have been the most, let's say, positively critical times in my career that brought me to the next step.
Yeah, amazing. And you've described yourself in the past as, and you actually a little bit did already just now, an athlete from your early years and a coach, and obviously now you're a CEO. How do those aspects of your history, your personality, the athlete and the coach, how does that impact how you lead today?
Good question. I think the athlete side in me, always, at that time proved me already as a young guy that everything is possible as long as you don't lose your objectives out of sight. And I think that's the same thing in management. There, of course, are times when things go really well, and there are reasons for it. And then, for whatever reason, you don't win anymore. But if you believe in yourself and you know your capabilities, and you work with another good coach, probably also on those things that you can improve, you know that there's always a way that makes things better again. And I think there is not a big difference in between sports and management. So I think it's this winning gene that we probably get implanted pretty young. And the coach thing is something that you probably as an athlete have seen on the other side, with good and bad coaches. And of course, at that time you also learned how, what made you motivate to do whatever this coach wanted you to do, and to learn from him, and that certainly also had an influence on the actual job.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I come across quite a lot of leaders within our industry that have some kind of sports, maybe professional or at a high level anyway, background. I think, as you say, that competitive gene and that desire to win is clearly something that's reasonably common out there. But I think the coaching part is, I'm sure for your team, a very positive thing, because I think it probably leads to what I would consider anyway to a very collaborative approach to leadership, which I think is so important, obviously, to empower your team and get the most out of them.
Absolutely. I think, the first thing is always to find the direction, to know where you want to go, and defining those goals, of course, is, I think, something that is part of a teamwork, but in many cases is also, getting out of the head of a leader, but then bringing the team behind this idea and walk the talk and try to reach those goals. I think that has many aspects. Of course, it's it's this motivation of knowing to know where to go, but you know that you can't do it alone, so you need your people around you. But also there, I think, it's not only the skills or the experience that makes you win. It's a lot of common sense, and I think especially in the sports industry, it's also the fun part of it, because the beauty of this industry is that we work day in, day out with products that we all love, that we all use in our time on the mountain or on the soccer pitch or on the track and field. So that motivation of working with those products as an athlete, with an environment with many other that have the same experience. It's not only this strict strategy thing. I think there's humor involved, there's fun involved. And of course, there's the motivation involved to get to reach those goals.
You mentioned there about the fact that many of us are in this industry because of the love for the activities, sports, whatever it might be, that we're either making products, selling products, marketing products, whatever it might be. Are you able to still find time to do that? And is that something that's really important for you? Because I know for a lot of people, finding and maintaining that balance, I speak to people where that kind of pulls them into the industry, but then sometimes they find themselves working so hard, such long hours, that actually they don't have the time to actually do the whole reason why they joined the industry. Have you been able to find a good balance there?
Well, I think that's something where I don't know when I not work anymore how it is then. But that always satisfied me to exactly do that, to work hard, but always find the time to be on the mountains in the weekends, to be on at least 30, 40 days on skis during winter. And I think if I would not have had the plan to do this, I would not be where I am today, because if you don't have that balance and let's say those 2 or 3 pillars next to work that inspire you, that motivate you, that have this that brings that light into my eyes, then it would be I could not be that person.
Yeah, interesting. You mentioned earlier on, you talked already about one mentor. So I'm interested in what's that kind of relationship been with that mentor? And have you had other mentors or coaches throughout your career? Is that something that you've used at all?
Well, I mean, especially that mentor. I mean, I think it's like a kid. You start crawling and then walking and then running. And at the beginning of a career, you are still in that crawling phase. And that guy, taught me a lot of what a job in this industry could look like. First of all, he brought me into the job where where you're always thankful to that person at the beginning. And then, whether it was in the morning at the coffee or at long bike rides together through the woods in Herzogenaurach. I mean, you talk and you listen to a guy who worked in Asia, who worked in the US, who, had product functions, supply chain functions, marketing functions. And you think, hey, one day I want to be like this guy. Having all this experience, talking about all those things he's talking about as it would be the most normal thing in the world. And that inspired me. And that was, I was lucky to have such a person, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. And is that, so it's clear that you were obviously working with that person at one point, obviously not probably after you left, I guess it was at Adidas based on what you were saying. Yeah. So, and you've maintained that kind of relationship since, and that's somebody that you're able to now share and get insights from that person.
Well, of course, the most insight of that person I got through that active time at Adidas, and those were, at least at the beginning 4 years when we worked directly together. But then also after, today we are friends, and I mean, there are still a lot of things that I admire at that guy. I mean, he made a fantastic career, but he seems to do that with, how we say in English, Gelassenheit, aniquity. If you're super relaxed, if you always,
okay.
If you can do the most, if you face the most difficult situations, and you still feel that he's and that's the kind of people that I admire the most, anyways, in the business.
Yeah,
I mean, the people that are super how we say competitive, and always wanted to be perfect, and always wanted to be the best. I always try to get out of their way. And there are much more people that speak a normal language, that use normal words, that don't have to prove that they are the most intelligent and the best, but have a great experience.
Absolutely.
And communicate with a certain relaxed and not that ambitious attitude.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that I was chatting to somebody about that 2 nights ago. I think that the power of clear, authentic, and easy to understand communication is so important at every level. And as you said, I think over my 30 years or so in the industry, I've sat in some meetings and big presentations with, I sometimes feel like people are kind of overcomplicating something or using language, as you said, to somehow elevate them. But actually, you can see that they're not taking people with them. And it's a shame, because obviously these are smart people. But if you don't have that ability to get your message out to the masses, as it were, then it's a little bit wasted. So
absolutely, and I think that's the beauty of our industry, that a lot of people, are people that come from sports, and not only because they come from sports, they've experienced sports, and we are not building too difficult products. I mean, our products are, what they are. I mean, they are innovative, they are technical, they are, of course, in a way, also based on pretty thorough research. But what they do is they support our emotions and support our activities. And if you live that and breathe that every day, to create, let's say, the ambience that we have, for example, here in this room, is not that difficult. You just have to get around you what you like, anyways.
Yeah. So, as we mentioned, so you're leading the outdoor group within the business, which includes obviously Deuter, Ultravox, Gonzo, and Maya Sports.
And a little startup in Rosenheim.
Okay.
It's Dockhammer. It's two guys that we started to support 4 years ago. They're doing a fantastic job. It's like always in a startup, there are difficult phases.
Yeah.
But at the moment, in terms of growth rates, they are beating the 4 big brands by miles. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure. But it's a good point, because that makes it even more interesting, I think, because you've got obviously brands at very different stages of development, very different sizes. So when you look at your role from a group point of view, what would you say is your most important task?
I think my most important task is to be in constructive conversations with the MDs here in the headquarters in Gersthofen, Taufkirchen, and Köngen, but also in our sales subsidiaries in the US, in Shanghai, in Annecy, in England, and in Italy, to be kind of good mirrors of their goals and be with them to develop what we want to achieve. So be with the people, have fruitful discussions, develop ideas, and then also implement them. and not only talk. That is, I think, my main role.
And is that something that you enjoy, that gives you a lot of energy?
Absolutely. I mean, just the example that we just discussed before the interview. I started not as the SSO head. I started as the MD of Deuter. So after 6-7 years, to see that there's a guy that could replace me, to work with him, to bring him onto that platform, so that also Sebastian Schwanhäuser would understand that he is the right guy for the role internally. And the same thing last year when I took over the interim CEO role at Autofox, to see that internally there was a great guy, and we did a complete process on having external candidates, internal candidates. And I'm not saying that I was influencing it, but I knew that it would the internal guy that would be the new guy, with all the the challenges which were fair from the top management. But then to see to work with this guy before he got the role, to bringing him into the role, and to support him also now, since what is it now, over half a year in the new role, I think that gives me that's one of the biggest satisfaction that you can have as a CEO. See people develop.
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit connected to that, as I mentioned earlier on, you spent 6-7 years at Gore, at WM Gore.
8 years. Yeah.
8 years.
Yeah.
And I think Gore is one of the things it's well known for is its let's say leadership or hierarchical approach. It's reasonably unique. Maybe less so now, but certainly back in the day it was quite unique in terms of the pretty flat hierarchy, etc. When you look back at that time, is there anything that you were able to kind of take away that is still pretty core to the way you operate the business here today and as you are as a leader today?
Well, I mean, like you said, Gore at that time and even before was a role model. Certainly it was not only flat hierarchies; it was no ranks, no titles, and there was, even at that time, there was no organigram existing. So people had to find their own ways, and not only to be in a superstructured way of organization. So, I mean, I think I took some of those with me, but to be honest, the Gore way was not that much different of the Adidas way I experienced before. But I think the Gore culture certainly influenced me, but it's pretty close to what a lot of sports brands are today. Flat hierarchies. It's not about having shoulder claps so that you can act as a leader. I think as a leader in those companies here, as at Gore and at others, you had to earn your stripes in a way to get the followership of the people. I mean, followership is not something that you can ask for. It's something that you get.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really interesting point. So when you join a new business, a new brand, as you did, then as it was Deuter, what was your approach to get that following and that support from the team?
Well, I think the first thing that you need to do when you get into a new organization or whatever is to listen and to understand the business, and even if you have experience before, a new company has a new structure, has a new way of working, processes. So I think asking a lot of questions to understand the new organization, and then of course evaluating different situations. Does that always have to continue like this, or is there also things that we need to change? And Deuter, for example, at that time was, still of course is pretty DACH-oriented business, with a lot of business in Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. But half of our business we do internationally. And the way we, for example, did sales meetings at that time was to me something that didn't work anymore. Because, I mean, the sales managers basically went to every country or talked their own story during ISPO fairs, which were still existing at that time. And I wanted, to bring our product managers and our marketing people in front of all those subsidiaries at one moment in time when it was the time for launching, let's say, the fall-winter or the spring-summer collection. So, after listening and learning how it worked before, to bring in such a, let's say, new thing at that time, it was new for Deuter, like an international sales meeting, of course, did not fall on positive reactions from all the managers, because, I mean, it was change. But then you also have to decide at one stage that you do it. And then of course, it's always kind of a risk. Does it work? Does it not work? In this case, it worked, and it changed the way we did, for example, sales meetings.
You talked earlier on about the fact that you worked with two internal leaders within Deuter and Ultravox for them to take that step up into the CEO or the managing director role of those brands independently. So when you're looking for leaders to take leadership roles anywhere within the business, whether that be internal or external, is there something particularly around their personality or the way they're behaving that you're particularly looking for?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I mean, there needs to be some, let's say, whatever experiences, skills that need to be there. But clearly, what I look at is the action. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that can be talked around, but whether it's internally, then of course it's much easier because you can observe the person over a long period of time. Or if you would hire somebody, I really want to know what they have done. So it's not about, this whole strategic blah 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 and management things. It's clearly knowing about, how have you reached this goal? Yeah. What have you done with your people? What have you done yourself? What have you done with the customer? And then you get an idea if that person is really able to turn things around.
Yeah. And so from an experience point of view, that makes complete sense. But and maybe it's the same thing, but in terms of that particular attitude or culture that you think fits within the business, is that something that you're looking at as well?
The cultural fit, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the cultural fit is something which, of course, is super important, and that goes a little back to what we discussed, 2 minutes ago. To me, in this industry, of course, I mean, they need to have this spirit of winning, but they also need to have, this common sense of dealing, especially, I mean, with people in different situations, and to stay, let's say, kind of calm, friendly, but point to the result. That is something that I try to find out. There are a lot of people that kind of panic or get unfriendly or get not respectful, even in difficult situations. That is certainly then not the kind of person I'm looking for, or we are looking for.
If we look at the industry as a whole, sustainability is clearly one of the macro topics, let's say, and it's something that is pretty well a part of, I think most of the brands, all of the brands even, I would say. That kind of view around sustainability and responsibility, how has your philosophy or ethos around that evolved over the last however many years you've been in your CEO role? If at all, maybe it hasn't, but...
No, it's a good question, because I think, especially here at Deuter, we have been sustainable, or we have acted sustainably even before the word even existed, probably. Yeah. And to me, to be honest, sustainability is much more an attitude than a marketing story. And I'm happy that that we got probably over this hype now in the last 8 years or 6 years, where you went onto a fair where you thought what kind of fair is this? Is this a sustainability fair or sports fair? And I think we all are for a better treatment of our planet. And when I look at our products, when I look at what we do in this building, when I look at how we promote, let's say, alternative ways of mobility, I think we do a lot, but we don't always have to talk about this. It's much more about living and breathing it and knowing that we do the right thing, instead of putting it on every product. And I'm thankful for the European. They're not always doing good things, but to reduce that claim disaster on sustainability and reduce it to real facts, that makes a lot of sense. And of course, sustainability and all the actions behind stay an important part of our business. But again, more as an attitude and knowing that we do things instead of always using it as the latest marketing initiative.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you look ahead to the next 3-5 years, maybe, what do you think is the biggest challenge that, let's say, the industry is going to face? Of course, that will then impact your business as well. But when you're thinking kind of bigger from an industry point of view, is there anything at the moment that is keeping you awake or that's kind of concerns you for the future?
Yeah, this industry, lived through a lot of innovations in the last 20 years. Probably starting with Gore-Tex, who made it possible to go outside even in strange conditions. And this innovation story, we at Deuter, we invented probably most of the inventions in backpacks. At Autofox, we were at the start of an avalanche beacon that made people survive even if two other beacons could not communicate with each other. We invented our electric way of avalanche packs. We got into textile mixes that at the beginning at Autofox were focused a lot on wool. Now we are mixing down and wool. So I think, again, innovation is one thing that keeps me awake at night, and we need to be aware that at the moment this industry is not the most innovative one. So we have to be all in the whole industry on our toe tips to create this next advantage for the consumer, that he can not only evaluate, this is a great new color or a nice new zipper. It needs to be real innovation. And of course, the other big topic is the digital transformation. 4, 5, or even 6 years ago, if you would have asked me, how is your cooperation with Amazon? I would say, we never will work with Amazon together. Now Amazon has become our biggest customer, and this customer has changed a lot in the last 8 years, and so has our whole approach to the different channels. And if you would have asked me about the future of brick and mortar also some years ago, I would have probably drawn a much more positive picture as it is today. The development of losing, great retailers that have done a fantastic job in the last 20 years, all of a sudden disappear. One, because of probably not keeping up with the digital development. The other one is probably succession, and the last one is financial problems. But it is a fact that a lot of brick and mortar stores have disappeared in the last 5 years, And the concentration on those big players like Amazon, but also other pure players in the outdoors like Bergzeig, Bergfreunde, REI in the US, is taking more and more momentum.
Do you feel like there could be a new and a better way to do bricks and mortar retail? And I have no idea if there is or not. I'm just interested because I think it's interesting that even though it's clear since COVID the digital business has increased, we also see still a desire and importance of people to have human interactions, engagements. So yeah, I don't know what it is, but I'm just wondering what's somehow next maybe for brick and mortar retail. I guess it's the $1 million question, or probably more like the $1 billion question these days.
I mean, of course, there will always be stores in cities that have a future. I mean, whether it's a sports shoe store in Munich, or other stores, especially in mountain resorts, where you have the opportunity to have the activity and buy the product next door. That will always be a big opportunity for brick and mortar stores. But let's say, especially on the in medium-sized cities, where the offer of a retailer is not really specific, it's kind of this, having a little bit of everything. Those retailers will have a hard time to survive. I mean, if you are super specialized on customizing your inlay sole and your ski boot, or you're a running expert that analyzes your running style and gets you the best pair of running shoes. I mean, and that is not new. I mean, real specialized brick and mortar stores also will always have a chance to survive. And on the other side, again, I mean, this whole digital side of the business is improving every day. I mean, it's the way we can do pictures, the way we can do movies, explain our products, the way artificial intelligence now kicks in and supports it. All these things are behind that, even getting bigger in digital, and that's only we are probably talking about Europe. I mean, I was in Shanghai 6 weeks ago, and the Chinese market is even further developed. I mean, there you have when we still use TikTok as kind of a marketing tool. In China, TikTok have become a channel where you have 20-25% of their sales, and everybody is working towards this.
Yeah. You've mentioned in the past that you see AI as a fantastic tool, but on the other hand, also the importance and the fact that that human contact, a good laugh, an emotional conversation, the connection, a handshake, can't be replaced. But how do we make sure we try and retain the value of those things? Because it seems to be more and more difficult.
It is difficult. I would say, everything that can be steered via data will sooner or later be replaced by artificial intelligence. And I remember when we sat here, maybe you remember Klaus Lehner, who was the founder of Bergzeig years ago. And Klaus sat here at this table when we talked the first time about our own B2C shop. He said, in probably already now, if you would have, but I mean, in 10, 15 years, your reps don't need to write orders anymore. Because if you fill your computer with the right data, this computer will be able in a much more accurate way to define what's the best assortment for your dealers. But what this machine can never do is go out with your dealer, test a new product, go on a hike, have this emotional connection, and not only with the dealer. It's probably today it's much more important with the end consumer. So I think a lot of people with a high social competence and combined with that passion for sports and our product, will have jobs in the future of entertaining people, bringing people together, of having this good laugh with the people at an event, because the data-driven tasks and work, and that can be done by the digitalization, by artificial intelligence much better.
Yeah. And I guess it's a little bit a similar topic around communication in leadership, because now we're all so used to using Teams or Zoom or whatever tool it might be on the day. How, from a leadership point of view, how do we kind of maintain that human connection? Because I think that those tools are efficient, but there's still something missing, though. That's my feeling.
Well, I think it's simple. I mean, it's back to the office, and have people at least 3 or even 4 days in the office working together as a team. Especially, I mean, I don't mind people having also home office days, but I mean, when people in teams, like in marketing and sales, work together, they need to have a presence here in the office. And if that's, of course, not possible because they are sitting at other places, it's travel again. So I mean, you will never have a difficult meeting, or a meeting which is really constructive on a Teams screen. So back to the office, and getting to the people that you have to work with is the recipe, but it's not new. It's just coming back now, I would say.
Yeah.
But I mean, the balance needs to be more on the be in the office side, because also, I mean, we see it with a lot of people here. I mean, to be honest, they want to be in the office because they like the interaction. They like to have the coffee together. They like to be at the canteen together and have lunch and talk about things. And of course, also in professional meetings, it's a much different a much higher quality than if you would only sit on a screen. I mean, of course, you can exchange numbers and simple communication via a screen, but if it's about really being constructive, innovative, then I think people need to sit together, be together.
And do you find it when you're bringing people into the business, maybe a younger generation, do you find it that can be an issue then to attract talent? Because I know with some of my clients that have a similar approach and policy to yourself, sometimes it can be tough to attract talent, younger talent, that have that kind of mindset that for them it's normal to be remote. Is that something you've come across or experienced yet?
That might be for some, but I think especially for the younger generation, there is another topic which is much more important to them, and that's, let's say, kind of call it purpose of the company. I mean, you mentioned sustainability. I mean, so how serious does a company not only communicate about sustainability, but really live and breathe it? I mean, what are the values of a company internally? Especially here in sports, it's easy to bring people together and go out for a ski ride or for a bike ride around the building in summer. So yes, I mean, I think 100% office probably would restrict talent search. So if it's in like I said, a normal 3-4 days and flexible, that's okay. But more important to them is also the values and the purpose that a company has.
I believe you've recently completed a course, education to become a mountain guide. So I guess 2 questions.
Mountain hiking guide.
Sorry, mountain hiking guide. Sorry. 2 questions. So I guess what was the motivation, and also how did you manage to do it, managing that with your CEO hat as well? Must have been tough.
Well, I mean, the second question, no, it was not tough, because I mean, it's like always, if you want something because you really like it, want to achieve it, you go over all obstacles. And how did I do it? I mean, yes, there were 3 weeks on-site education in the mountains. So I took my vacation for it. So I have 3 weeks of vacation, unfortunately. So that was one thing. And the other thing was, studying at night. So taking my curriculum and reading through it, reading about all these things, and that was interesting at my age, because to sit on a school bank was it's a long time ago. To get prepared on the theoretical part, but also on the practical part, the orientation, the reading maps, and the working with the compass outside, needed training. So I bought maps from the area here and trained in the Western forests to get myself to the point where I needed to be. And yeah, I mean, it was really fun, learning about things that you like anyways. And then you find the time, and then most of the time was, of course, then at night and in those three weeks. And the motivation why I wanted to do it was, we sat together 3 years ago, I think, with a friend, same age, over 60. And we said, I mean, at one point, whether we like it or not, our time in the industry probably will come to an end. And what do we do then? I mean, yes, we have hobbies. Yes, we have kids and grandchildren. But, as we have always been active, and as we have always been, also got appreciation for what we did, and we need something. And as as we like the mountains, we applied for becoming that mountain hiking guide and went through it. And now, it's, I still don't know, how it's going to be to work in this profession, because it is a profession. But at least I set the base to have a perspective whenever I quit working as a CEO or as a manager.
Yeah. Well, that'll be a nice transition for sure.
Yeah.
That'll be great.
That's brilliant. That was always, my motivation. I always said to my friends, and of course, I mean, working as a product manager, as a sales manager, as a marketing manager, as a CEO, is a little bit the same than in other companies. So it's about profit and loss, it's about margin, it's about strategy, it's about budgets, it's about leadership. So there are roles that you can compare, but it's still kind of combining, this role that you have in any company with your hobby. I mean, we're sitting in an environment here where people, just like to be if they like the mountains and the product. So combining my work with my, with what I'd like to do has always been kind of my motivation. And yeah, in the end now it will be only that, doing what I like to do.
Sounds perfect. Right. So this is a question that a lot of CEOs find tough to answer. So looking back over your career, what would you say has been the biggest failure, and what did you learn from that?
Well, it depends on how you describe failure.
I let you define it.
Well, I think it's when somebody trusts you and you don't give back that trust. So at one stage in my career, I was hired as a European MD for a big ski company, and applied for the job, got the job, signed the contract. But before I went there, I decided not to start. And of course, I mean, those people were not happy, and for the right reason. And at that time, I swore that something like this will never, ever happen to me again. It was early in my career. But when I promise something to somebody, whether it's, it's especially when it comes to a work relationship, you better think before if you want to do it. It's not always because it's this glamorous brand. There's more behind it. But then you have to, at least try your best and not just walk away. And that was not a good feeling.
Interesting. Oh, well, I appreciate you sharing that. That's that must have been a tough decision, though. As even looking, okay, you're reflecting now and saying it wasn't a good feeling, but
That was horrible because
Yeah.
I mean, you knew that you. Of course, I was thankful that at the company I worked for at that time, first of all, probably didn't want to let me go, and then of course took me back when I decided. But you don't feel good. I mean, you better think before you act on something that you cannot deliver. Then.
Yeah. It's funny, something very similar happened to me. Yeah. So you're not alone. And it's one of my regrets actually, because the person that I would have been working with or for has unfortunately never spoken to me since. So it's
similar to me.
Yeah, it's a sad situation.
Yeah.
But it's life, these things happen, and you have. At the end of the day, I think it's the decision in the end was for a reason, and you have to respect that decision. And otherwise, I think inside, you know that it's not going to work, and you
have to forgive yourself in a way. That's true, but still, at least I never did it again.
Yeah, me too.
So that was learning.
Me too. So I'm interested how you're obviously somebody that loves to spend time outdoors, whether it's skiing in winter or on your bike, hiking. How do you think that those experiences and that time in nature actually influences you as a leader, or does it? Other than just obviously the synergies of people working here, but from a leadership point of view, do you feel that you get something from that?
Two things. First of all, if I have a challenging situation, the best ideas I always get when I'm out there and do the sport, because then you just get a different perspective. And the second thing is, and that's for me passion is not my biggest strength. So if I see a mountain, I'd like to be up there before I even start walking. But on the mountain teaches you that you can only get to the top if you start doing step by step. That on the way you also you're disciplined with your energy, because if not, you have to turn around midway up. And also, if it gets too harsh, then your preparation was not good enough, or for whatever reason. Also, to say, okay, that goal was too high. We have to at least go back and prepare better, or we do something else. So, I think that mountain is not only a nice playground, it's also a nice university.
Yeah, it's a good analogy for life somehow. Yeah, in business. So, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Well, the best piece of advice still always probably comes from my mother, and she says, things are not always bright, but there's everything for a reason, and it's a simple saying, but it has a big meaning, because you start to learn to, first of all, accept the situation as it is, and then, in most cases at least, there's a brighter view again on things, and so that's I still think a good piece of advice.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's turn it the other way. So, thinking about future leaders of this industry, people maybe in the early stages of their career, what 3 pieces of advice would you give to them to help them on their career path?
Well, first of all, give yourself the time to discover if you want to be a leader, because it's not for everybody, and it's always the big hope for everybody starting in business to probably end up as a CEO, sales manager role, having responsibility for a company, but it's not for everybody. And it should not make you feel bad if you realize that it's not for everybody. Because, I mean, great project people that work for themselves on specific projects together, of course, with other people, but not being responsible for let's say for a P&L or for a company is at least as important as being a leader. So if you don't become a leader, that's not how you say a not success.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you want to become a leader, learn from other leaders. See how they act, what they do, talk to them, and ask the same questions you probably asked me. What's the role of a mentor? How you get to a mentor, how you learn from people, make your experiences. But you need to want it. That is, I think, the most important thing, and not because it's a nice title or because it makes you probably good money. You need to like to work with people and talk to all sorts of people in an appropriate way and help them to do their business, and also lead them and bring them probably to places where they wouldn't go by themselves and still do the work. But it needs energy, and that energy you need to be aware that you want to have, or that you have it, and that you want to apply it in this role.
I think that's really great advice, especially the knowing if you really want it and what it means, and also, as you said, being happy and content that, if it's not the right thing for you, if you don't want it,
exactly,
then you can still be very successful in whatever it is you're doing.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's ever said that before, which is unusual now after 53 episodes to get something brand new. So thank you. And I think it really resonates, because I think a lot of people, it's just almost like the perception, okay, well, we start here and we take the next step and the next step and the next step. And of course, that can't be the case for everybody. Exactly. Otherwise, there would be more CEOs than people actually on the floor doing the work, as it were.
Yeah, and to be honest, especially in this role, I experienced many people. Without them, I could not have done my job.
Yeah.
And they had not the aspiration to become a whatever leader or CEO. They just liked what they were doing, have been super experts in their roles, and gave me the advice that I needed to then probably resource the department or the brand with the means that we could do it. But the inspiration and the knowledge did not come from a leader, from an expert who was happy doing what he was doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you've got your mountain hiking guide qualifications, and this is your last day at Deuter. You're going to retire and walk into the mountains and hike for the rest of your career. What's your parting message to the team?
Today, I would say, Deuter has come a long way and still has a bright future ahead. Be thankful to be able to work for a brand like this, with such a culture, with such a leadership that tries to really understand what makes people motivated to work for such a great brand, same at Autofox or Meyer Sports or Gonzo. Be patient with your career plan. Don't expect to become a leader tomorrow. If you want to become it, there is still time, probably in 2 or 3 years, when you have proven and have left a footprint that is really valuable. And believe in yourself, that you are the one that can help Deutscher to be successful, because whether it was me before or the new CEO, he will never be able to do it by himself. So if you're in a difficult situation, and who said it? I think it was one of the brilliant presidents in the US. Was it John F. Kennedy? Who said, I mean, don't always ask what the country can do for you, but what you can do for the country. And if that comes together, then you're unbeatable.
Great. Perfect. Well, I think that's a perfect place to finish. So thank you very much, Martin, for taking the time to chat with me today. I really appreciate it. I think, it's not surprising that with so much experience in so many great different companies that you have so many really valuable insights to share. So on behalf of everybody, I really appreciate you taking the time to share them, and thank you. And I look forward to seeing you in the mountains at some point.
Yeah, we should go probably tomorrow. No, thank you very much. It was also very interesting to me because, you always learn through questions, and they were very interesting questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much for listening to this episode. Please ensure you click the follow or subscribe button in your podcast app so you never miss a new episode. And don't forget, it's completely free. If you're interested in what else we're doing, please follow us on LinkedIn. I'm Dan Trapp, and you've been listening to Sports and Outdoor Mentors.